Good morning. One thing I wanted to talk about is like this thing that I see. Like some people who like living in the streets, they don't want to admit that they like living in the streets. So somehow they make their situation seem different than the other. And though everybody's situation is different, what I see is sometimes somebody might put down another and be like, I'm living on the streets, but I wash up every day, or I change my clothes, or I live on the streets, but I'm not doing the type of drug that they're doing, or I'm not drinking, or, my situation caused me to live on the street. It's not like my choice. But sometimes I feel like some people, it is their choice. Um, it might not, like, I mean, if they could have a place to stay, and didn't have to deal with all the responsibilities, they probably would take it. But because they don't want to do that, they choose to live on the streets. And I'm not knocking it, but instead of them being honest about it, what they do is try to come up with the excuse for why they have to do it. And then I'm not saying that's for everyone, but sometimes I feel like that I don't know, people tend to talk to me in that way. And I'm not judging, and maybe they feel like I am judging them, so that's why they do that. But like I've said in other videos, I've always admired the homeless, so I never look at them like, you know, less than. I mean, some situations, a homeless person can get annoying, but I never looked at them like that's pitiful. I was always like, wow, that's really cool. But that's not the popular view of it. So I think because society more so as a whole looks down on homelessness and is already looking down upon that person, the person doesn't want to admit like they might like that life. So they'll say, because it's already looking like bad, like people are already looking at you like, that's, less than. I mean, some people may feel sorry for you or, want to help you, but then some people are definitely looking at you like, oh, you're not trying, and, you're not, you don't amount to me, or you're less than me. I mean, I definitely, that's some people's attitudes. So, yeah, for the person that's living on the streets, I think that's part of the reason why they wouldn't admit like they like it. So they'll say, you know, I went into the shelter, but it didn't work out, and everything was against me in the shelter, and there was like evil spirits in the shelter, and I have a short temper, so I would get in the shelter, and then eventually I would have to fight with someone. It's like these reasons, and I mean those could be valid reasons, but then I feel like also a reason is that you might like it, and that in the winter you would think a lot of people would choose to be indoors, but for what I see is some people who really are just in the streets and they not trying to go into any other situation. Getting a tent is ideal for some people, but some people don't even want a tent. Like I don't really want to deal with the responsibility of a tent, and I see that there's other people who are that way too. So I mean, and I'm saying this all to say, like, I feel like it's a shame that people should feel ashamed. I you know, the topic on the agenda is like get everybody off of the streets, but you can't get people off the streets if they don't want to be off the streets. And I was thinking it would be nice if there were things to make living on the street more of a safer environment or more of a healthier environment. And here, there's definitely organizations that help people with living on the streets, but the environments aren't that healthy and it's not that safe, and you don't know who you're around, and that's part of the reason why I don't want to go into those areas. But but yeah, what was I gonna say? Um, but yeah, like once like done it, lived on the streets, I definitely could see why you would want to do it. But then again, I never looked at it as a bad choice. I've always looked at it like even though this is very much a city, it's still like living in nature in a way. You know, definitely living in nature. Like you're out here in the elements. You have to deal with the weather. You have to deal with the seasons. You know, you see the sun come up, you see the sun go down, and you know you're underneath like street light, but moonlight, and you know it's outdoors, and then that like I feel like your human instinct is to like be a little weary at night, and then you wake up. And definitely now in the winter, like I wake up, I'm like, I made it. You know, I made it through the night. I'm so like, oh, I'm so happy. so so yeah, so that is like once you had that freedom of living on the streets, like I can see why you wouldn't want to go into a place, especially like a shelter where people are telling you when to go to bed, when to wake up, when to eat, when to shower, and if you get comfortable in there, they're telling you you got to get out of there, like you got to go out into the streets. So it's like instead of getting all your hopes up, like just stay out in the streets, and some people that's not what anybody could imagine doing, but for the people who can see that or imagine doing that or they're interested in doing that, once you tried it you really can see the value in it, I think. And just like I said, if it was safer, like one person was pointing out, like if you had a tent you could build up a bunch of blankets inside the tent and it's warm inside the tent. And so, I mean, that'll definitely take away, any worries of hypothermia, maybe. I don't know. But I see like a lot of elders out here and they're getting by. So I don't know. I mean, and they're not even wrapped up as much as I wrap up. Like I keep my blankets. Some people, wrap up with their blankets, leave them, and just hope for them to be there when they return. And my thing is like, if it's not there, then what do you do? And I guess you just figure it out. But it's people surviving, and yeah, I feel like if it wasn't looked down upon, like people would not be so ashamed. I've met people who they choose to be on the streets because they want to do their drugs or they want to drink, and they can't do that in their family, so they just stay in the streets. I met people who have homes or have housing, but they don't want to stay in the house, so they stay on the streets. So. But I guess the point I'm making is like it is a choice for some, and I think like they don't want to be looked down upon by admitting it's a kind of a choice. So instead, they'll say that there's all these things against me for why I'm in this situation, and I'm not speaking for all. And I'm sure there's people out here because it's like uh, the only thing they can do right now. But you know, and I like I said, like if housing was like a little bit easier to obtain and you didn't have to deal with so many responsibilities, I think it would be a lot of less people on the streets too. But some people don't want to deal with that burden. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's a thought I'm working out. I mean, offend anybody if I did. Because one thing I would say, like I do see a lot less people on the streets in the winter than I did in the summer, and I can't handle the cold, so I'm not out on the streets like that. I mean, I do see some of the people that were out in the summer still out on the streets, but some people, they found some place to go. So I mean, it's definitely not, everybody's choice, but. Mm. Anyway, all right. Have a great day today.